The idea is that there has to be a story that you're this, and each frame should connect with the view, because till you do not do something practically, it just doesn't happen.
Correct.
And the good thing that you guys do is that you have lots of experts from various
Mentors, yeah.
fields coming in, so that gives them a very broad perspective how different people look at what their area of skill is.
Yeah.
जीवन के सफर में राही हम सब राही हैं. Welcome back to Made for Media, brought to you by the Indian Institute of Creative Skills under NSDC Academy, powered by Media and Entertainment Skill Council. Today's session being framed with Finesse, the podcast where we zoom into the creativity, crop out the noise, and adjust the brightness on life's big questions. Well, today we have with us a man who just doesn't click photographs. He captures stories, he has framed legends, covered fashion runways, and seen more light through his lens than most of us have ever seen in our electricity bills. He covered the Babari Masjid demolition in Ayodhya. And can you imagine the picture featured on the cover of Time magazine? Wow. I should give an applause there. He photographed Indian troops at the freezing heights of Zojila Pass, and that was during the Kargil War for the Der Spiegel magazine. Covered earthquake in Gujarat in the year 2000 for the same magazine and Time magazine too. And I could just go on and on and on and on. Then MR Group, MGF Group, DLF Group, and DLF Golf Club in Gurgaon. Emporium Mall, Promenade Mall, DLF Place, Mall Saket photographed Miss India models as well as the creations of top fashion designer Rohit Khosla. His coffee table book on India called India 24 Hours, put together by a select brand of 16 leading Indian photographers. And can you believe it? It was the bestseller and is now being reprinted abroad as a day in the life of India. Wow. Also, the coffee table book on Madhya Pradesh, a state in central India, along with 16 leading Indian photographers. Also, a coffee table book on the beautiful Coral Islands of Lakshadweep with Raghu Rai, his father, of course. A coffee table book of IIT Delhi, which was conceptualized, designed, photographed, and published by Nitin Rai for IIT in 2015. So, let's put our hands together for the one and only Nitin Rai. So, Nitin, welcome to Indian
you.
Institute of Creative Skills. And it's such a privilege having a person of your stature, your experience here with us.
Thank you. Pleasure is all mine.
Okay, हम थोड़ा English में बात करें, चलेगा?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So, I wanted to ask you, what was your earliest memory when you picked up the first camera and started photographing? How did your father inspire you? I want to know that first time when you started photographing.
Sure. So, to cut a long story short, when I was very young, and there were prints at that time. There was no digital, and I was probably my earliest memories is when I was about maybe 4 or 5,
Mm.
and my dad would come back home, and he'd come back very excited about an assignment he'd done, and he'd have these beautiful prints. And I was this little boy sitting there and watching my dad displaying his work, and all these great photographers who are now legends of photography would be over, and they'd be discussing very passionately about photographs, saying, wow, this is beautiful, yeah, but I feel this could be better. And I was this little boy, watching him and looking at photographs and understanding it. And maybe that's how I got interested. And then maybe when I was about 7 or 8, I asked one day my dad, I said, Papa, please give me a camera. I'd like
Oh,
to
sweet.
take photography. I'd like to start taking some pictures.
Yeah.
And I started shooting pictures. And a couple of years later, there was a friend of mine who is also now a very famous photographer called Orko Datta.
I know Orko well. Yeah, yeah, okay.
And he has shot that famous world press photo of the Gujarat rat, the man pleading for his life.
Yes.
So he had come to stay with us. His parents had shifted, and he also had a camera. And because I had him and he was staying in my room, so I got interested in photography again. And I picked up my camera, and we used to go out and we used to shoot. We were little kids. We go cycling, and we used to be staying in central Delhi. And right behind my house or in front of my house was the Delhi Zoo. So as kids, we'd cycle down with cameras and we'd take pictures. And I'd converted my bathroom into a dark room.
Dark
And
room.
at night we'd come back and we'd process our films and
Right.
see the photographs that we'd done.
Mhm.
And so that's what it is. And then of course over the years, a lot of my father's friends and great photographers. So my father's elder brother S. Paul, who is a legendary photographer, and my father's guru also. I showed him pictures. He really liked my work. And then when I was about 12, 13, my mom is a senior journalist and
Mhm.
she has written on women's issues, environment, for many years. And, every time she'd be doing a story for a newspaper or a magazine, she'd say, I'm doing this and you think you could photograph it? So I started taking pictures and it was great because when I went to school the next day, my, batchmates in class would tell me, hey, we saw your picture in the newspaper looking really nice. So it was great for a little kid, to see his name in the newspapers and to be getting pocket money
Yeah.
and to be independent, financially.
At such a small age,
Like,
young age.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, you shot for Target magazine, and your photograph of Rajiv Gandhi featured on the cover.
Yes.
How did that happen?
So, Target was a magazine at that time, and it was a children's magazine. And an aunt of mine was an editor there, and they liked my work, so they made me do assignments. And there was a lady called Rosalind, who was a British lady who was the editor of that magazine. And she said to me one day that, Nitin, we have this interview with Rajiv Gandhi, and would you like to photograph it? And it's for our cover. So I said, I'd love to. And so that happened. And then the one day I was doing assignments, I was, you know, doing all kinds of things. And I got to know that a friend of my father called Pramod Kapoor used to run a paper called Sunday Mail, and he had a publishing house. He got in touch with me saying that why don't you do some assignments for us? And then he offered me a job as a photographer. So while I was still about 17, I started my first job as a photographer.
Wasn't.
And then when I was about 18, I went and met Veer Sangvi and Tavi Sarkar, the owners of the Anand Bazaar Group, and they offered me a job as a young photographer. I did pretty well. In what about 3 to 4 years from there, I became their photo editor, leading a team of photographers.
Wow.
And I was also one of India's youngest photo editors, leading a team of photographers.
Wow, that is a very young age to have a team behind you.
This was when I was about 21, 22. Yeah. So
Wonderful.
that it was around that time that Ayodhya happened. The
Yes, I was coming to that.
90.
So yeah, how did that Babri Masjid shooting with your camera, Ayodhya, and what was the experience? What were the feelings? What were the emotions? I would love to know that.
So of course, you know, uh, Advani ji had finished his Rath Yatra, and there was going to be this big puja and Shilanyas at the Babri Masjid. And as a young photojournalist, I was requested by my editor to go to Ayodhya to cover what would happen there. So me, my correspondent, were there and to cover it, like many other media people, uh, till like maybe about 5 minutes before this whole thing started. I couldn't have imagined that because there was so much of police and security that these car sevaks would come, the police would move away, they'd climb on top and they'd
And
actually
stop
break the
breaking it.
the the Babri Masjid.
Very risky,
Very risky.
Nitin.
Absolutely. So I was in fact beaten up many times by them.
Oh my God.
And yeah, yeah. And so that's an interesting story also. Um, so when this happened, these car sevaks came uh, to climb the top of the Babri Masjid to break it. There were barricades. Uh, they pelted stones. So the police moved away because if the police would have fired, there were so many car sevaks. It would
They would
have
have
been,
died,
yeah.
yeah.
So at that point, I saw a lot of the car sevaks were attacking photographers and they were breaking cameras. Because that time we were still on film, and film, a photograph, till then was considered evidence in a court of law. So they were breaking cameras and, ripping out films and tying bandanas with them. So at that point, I saw a group of women car sevaks, and I couldn't believe this is actually happening. And I thought I should first secure myself. So I went and hid between these women, and I started taking pictures. In fact, for the first couple of seconds, I couldn't shoot because I was trying to press the button. I was so shaken up that I was not able to click that, controlled myself. It was a shock. It was a believe it. And then I shot a couple of pictures till, of course, of, some car sevaks saw me and they said, Dekho, photographer baitha hua hai.
Oh my God.
And then, of course, I ran out and they ran behind me. And then I saw Pablo Bartholomew, who was another famous photojournalist. I saw another photojournalist called Praveen. We were all friends. And I said, let's get out of here. Otherwise, they will,
Kill you.
kill us.
Hmm.
So anyway, we ran further up in front. And then before I knew it, Pablo was on the floor and, and I was showing my card, press card, and I was saying, I'm a photographer. I work for Sunday. I'm a Hindu, but they didn't give a damn. They wanted to basically break our cameras. And I was on the ground, but whatever blows I took, I took it on my back. And before you know it, you got so many slaps, kicks, punches, you don't even realize it's happened.
Oh my God.
And I said, where is Pablo? Where is Praveen? And I turned around and I saw Pablo lying on the floor and someone chucked a brick on his head. And at that point, I saw that brick hitting him and blood erupted. Yeah. And I said, God, this is dicey.
Oh my God.
And then I saw someone taking out a sword and saying, Mar do isko, for me. So at this point, I kind of pushed this crowd and I ran. And there was this young IPS officer standing there who was all of 5 feet tall, a big guy, over 6 feet tall. And I ran to her. I said, Bam, you've got to help us. I said, a colleague of mine is being beaten up there
Beaten up, huh?
and they'll kill him. So please help us. So she was like a tigress. Her name was Anju Gupta. In fact, Femina, I think Society Femina did a cover story.
Cover story on her. Yeah, yeah.
And she just had one baton and a pistol, a service revolver. She took it out and she shouted at the mob and she charged, and the entire mob
Went back.
And she picked up
Wow.
and
What an influence.
got him, there. And then I had 4 of these cops with just dandas, tullas, what we call in Delhi.
Killas, yeah.
So sending around us, and they were wanting to get to us, and she was just holding them back with voice and the gun. Then at that point, there was this huge thud of the first dome falling, and then the crowd looked that side. So she said, "Nah, I need to go," and she locked us in a small room.
Vehicle.
Not even a room. It was like a cottage made of haystack.
Oh.
And she posted 2 guards with 2 dandas outside. And I said, God, if the mob wants, they will just burn us.
They'll just gun you.
Burnt alive there.
Burnt in a haystack.
Burnt in a haystack. So luckily, then another dome fell. So the entire mob lost interest and they all ran that side. Then she came back in the evening in a gypsy and I told Pablo I said, Pablo, I've seen a gypsy there, which is a police jeep at that time. And I said, worst comes to worst, because Pablo was bleeding profusely, his cameras had gone. I said, worst come to worst, you just get yourself to the car. I've seen the keys. I'll just drive over anybody and everybody and get the hell out of it. Because we were really scared. We didn't know if he'd come out
What
alive.
about the third photographer?
Praveen is a thin guy. I don't know what he did. He just kind of vanished like a fly, like that. He just vanished.
Okay.
And then she came back at night. She put us in this jeep. And when she was taking us back, God, Ayodhya was burning everywhere. There were fires everywhere. My dad was looking for me everywhere in all the hospitals where dead bodies are, where people who were looking, under sheets. And
Oh my
it,
God.
we got to know that the Delhi newspapers had carried that I'd been stabbed. My mom was also worried. There was chaos in my house that, is he alive? Has someone, killed him? So it was, yeah, it was chaotic.
Wow. And you managed to get good
Yeah, we managed to
pictures.
get good pictures. We did a brilliant cover with Sunday. We did a large photo story. Time magazine took my picture for their cover.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But what a price to pay and what a
The
story.
price to pay.
And what a
Did you
story.
really think it's a price worth paying? Junoon is more
It
important.
was more Junoon. You see, when you're young and when you see something like this, I thought I would take. You see, we are trained as photojournalists, as photographers, to secure ourselves in situations. But that's why I ran and hid behind these or in between
Ladies.
these ladies, but
Car savers.
car sevaks. But you never know how this situation suddenly turns around, no? And that's what happened. So calculated risks are okay. But I feel if you're alive, then you do so many more assignments, so produce so many great images. So life is precious, no?
Absolutely, I agree with you. So, what was the contrast of shooting Babri Masjid and then shooting with His Holiness the Dalai Lama?
You see, the amazing thing when I must tell you, so when I joined Sunday magazine, I joined them as a young photographer. Within 3 years, 4 years time, I did really well. They really liked my work. I did a lot of their covers. Veer was a great editor. If I ever wanted to do a photo story, and I'd said, I want to do a photo story on the shortest man. In fact, what we do is in our weekly meetings, where the entire bureau sits together, we discuss what are the stories that are happening, events that are happening. And I had told all our correspondents in different parts of India, if you ever have anything interesting visually, let me know so we can do a photo
Photo
story.
story, yeah.
And that at that time in the 90s, the best way to compete with television was through big visuals, powerful visuals, to do photo stories. And they'd come back to me. So that's how I did A Day in the Life of His Holiness. So, uh, we had got an interview with His Holiness. And the correspondent said that, Nitin, would you like to come or would you like to send another photographer? So I said, no, His Holiness is special. I would like to photograph him. I would like to experience,
Yes,
and
an
there's an interest
opportunity not
some
to be
yes,
missed. Yes.
absolutely. So I'd gone for that. And we had only a half an hour interview with His Holiness.
Right.
And His Holiness is extremely fond of my father
Oh,
and has a lot of affection for my father. So I tried to ask the office of His Holiness that I would like to spend a day photographing His Holiness, and whatever he does, I'd only come in for 5 minutes in the beginning to photograph it and I'll walk out.
right.
So they said, sorry, it is not possible. He has an extremely busy time schedule and we cannot bother His Holiness. And,
Right.
he's in the middle of prayers and it can't be disturbed. So I said, okay. But the whole idea was there to go was apart from meeting him. Also, if I could do, a photo story on His Holiness and what he does during a regular day when he's back at his palace. So during the interview, I introduced myself. Then my correspondent said, this is Nitin Rai. He's Raghu Rai's son. So then His Holiness looked at me with a totally different expression of love. He said, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here. So he called me. So I went, and bowed in front of him like that. So he very sweetly caught hold of my hair like that and kept doing this. He said, Raghu, son. So I said, yeah. So I said, His Holiness, I would love to photograph you during the entire day. I promise I'll only take 2 minutes. He said, sure, why not?
Oh,
So they told his assistant, that please give him, 10 minutes at the beginning of every time, that whatever I'm doing during the day. So of course his assistant was very angry with me, but that's how I did it. The beautiful part about being a photojournalist with a magazine like Sunday was we worked on a varieties of issues from, news events to beautiful human interest stories behind the book stories to, developments in fashion, in the food industry. And that's how I really became a multi-genre photographer.
Right.
And So we did a lot of stories like that. So we did
What about the shortest man, Ghulam Muhammad?
Gul Muhammad.
Gul Muhammad.
Gul
Yes.
Muhammad.
Yes.
So at that time, Guinness Book of World Record had declared Gul Muhammad, who used to stay in Old Delhi,
Old
in
Delhi.
Galib's Gali,
Ghalib ki gali.
Galib ki Gali,
Huh.
and he was a man of all of 22 inches.
Oh wow.
And so I just thought, he would make a great story on what is it like life for a man who's so small to live in a world where everything around him is so much bigger.
And you must be literally towering over him.
Yeah. But it was an amazing experience, and he had a beautiful black and white story. I photographed him in
I
Jami
saw the
Masjid,
pictures, huh?
and it was much loved by a lot of viewers. And we like that. We also did another story. So our Bhopal correspondent I told him, let's try and do some interesting rural stories.
Yeah,
also."
yeah.
So he in his meeting also told me about the land of the dacoits, the ravines, Phulan Devi, Moher Singh. So he said, "Would you like to do a story on that?" I said, "I'd love to." So we came down, and his his batchmate was the IG of Bhind, Morena, Chambal.
Acha,
The
wow.
Inspector General of Police is a big guy there. So when we wanted to do this, he gave us an escort and he gave us a police car. And because they know a lot of people around, we went and met them and we photographed them. And we did this really funny, humorous story where the peg connecting all the pictures was that everybody had a big mustache, everybody had a gun. And it was like a photo story, like the Wild West of India.
मुझे हो तो नत्थूलाल जैसी.
बिल्कुल, बिल्कुल.
One image has to tell a story. What do you exactly do to bring life out of that one single image?
The brilliant thing about creative photography is that you have one image to tell a story,
Right.
right? When you're doing video, you're looking at a series of images coming together. But when you're shooting stills, you have to make that one image which tells a story. It's a photographer, his eyes are closed.
Yes.
But that expression he has of happiness and peace,
Amazing.
he's not even looking into the camera.
Yes.
Such
yes,
all.
absolutely.
This portrait of
Atal ji.
So this was, this was in 95, and
Is this was on the rolls, the real camera or digital?
this is all on film.